So I am here tonight with the absolutely lovely Janine Steffens from Turn the Page by Janine. How are you doing, Janine?
I'm doing really well, Catherine. I am so glad to see you again. You just always make things brighter.
Oh, so I hear you're pretty busy with all your readings and everything at the moment.
Yes, I am, and I'm trying to get adjusted to all of it. And they're just really all really beautiful readings. They really are.
That's so good, isn't it? I mean, I know what that's like. I balance, lots of different things, juggling lots of different things in the air with my personal consults and the videos and the courses and writing books. So lots of different balls juggling in the air, as well as looking after all our family members, 2 and 4-legged. So, but anyway,
Yes.
I'm so pleased to have you here. Now, I think virtually all my listeners know who you are. But for those of you, we're always getting new listeners all the time. So can you just give us a little introduction into yourself, your work, and your channels?
Yeah. So basically, I have Turn the Page with Janine, and it's I like to call it a broadcast because that's what I'm doing. I'm not a truther or an influencer or anything like that. Those labels don't really sit well with me, but when I was younger, I was called a reporter. It's funny because my mother always wanted to know what was going on while she was off working. And if she wanted to, find out what my older brothers and sisters were doing, she'd come to me and I would just say, oh, we did this, we did that, not knowing I was telling on them. So this falls in line with my show. I'm a reporter.
Yeah,
But
that's
basically I have Turn the Page with Janine. I'm on Rumble, BitChute, Gab. I've been adding some of my videos over there. YouTube, I'm on my backup channel right now because it was taken down for bullying in the community, if you will, which I have no idea what word they picked up on. But yeah, so I'll be up and running in the next couple of days. It's been a couple of weeks. I currently have a couple of strikes against me, but my new home is going to be going live on Rumble from now on.
I haven't
I'm
worked out how to go live on Rumble, so I have to get a lesson from that on you.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting because it's a lot different from the way everybody else goes live. So you go live and that's it. With Rumble, you always have to set up a short little video before you can actually go live. So, but other than that, I've been doing my readings. Like you said, managing family and stuff like that. But I do a lot behind the scenes with preparing for my shows. I decided to vet more of my information. It's really important that the information that I get is aligned with who I am. And I do a little bit more of my research. So I've reached out to a couple of doctors, that I'd like to have on my show coming up really soon. And it's just more of what I like to hear is more facts and data and truth than hopium.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? And that was going to be one of my questions, Janine, is what have you learned since starting your show? What are some of the key points that you have learned?
So I'm the newbie on the block, if you will. I've only been doing this for 7 months, and I'll tell you, at first it was, and I hope that I'm not losing my spark to do this because I kind of always want to be able to go back to, having that joy that I did when I first got on. But I wanted to have a lot of people like you, and I reached out to Bryce and just having them come on to my show without really having an agenda in mind, but just to share the spiritual community. And with that, I think after 7 months, it's got to be that the information out there was either disinformation or a little bit of hopium, a little bit of this. I struggled with it internally of what I was actually presenting to anybody that followed me. But the one thing I can say that I always loved was the interaction that I had with the people in the chat. That is me. That is the fun part of it. And if somebody throws something out, I'll catch it. And it's like playing ball with them, if you will. We go back and forth on that. And so that's a lot of fun because it's building relations, especially when we're all shut down, right? I always wanted it to be more interactive. When I first started out the channel, I was doing a lot with you called into me. I had this phone line that was above my head and everything, and it was a lot of work to do it that way. But then I decided I'll just try to get used to this chat because I wasn't familiar with the chats, and it's worked out really well. So that's what I enjoy doing, where I'm going with the channel right now. And I'm there's so much technology behind the scenes that I'm actually looking for a high school student to come in as a social media intern to help do a lot of the stuff to free up my time so that I can do a lot of the readings. I do enjoy the readings a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so important, isn't it, Janine? Because I'm very similar to you, because my real passion is working with my clients as well, and all the research. And there's never a day that goes by when I'm not researching, and I'm very much into the natural health for animals and humans, and lifestyle. You know, the most, how to have the most balanced, healthy lifestyle, mind, body, spirit, again, for animals and humans. But we both love what we're doing with here, with just sharing the information and getting all the ideas across the globe, but it is a lot of work, isn't it? I mean, last night I was trying to put a video up on YouTube, and it just took hours, because sometimes it plays ball, doesn't it, and other times it does not play ball. And then I couldn't send out the newsletter after that, and I was literally pulling my hair out thinking, this is no joke anymore. So,
Yeah.
and we're not moaning, folks, we're not moaning, we know we're choosing to do it, but
Well, yeah, because I'll call my husband in, who knows nothing about this, and I'm relying on him. I'm going, I need some help. I need some help. And he just stands there and looks and he goes, I know nothing about this.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
behead you. Go away.
Exactly. Now, one of the things you were saying about the hopium and vetting your guests and things is a really important point, and I've certainly been through that learning curve as well. But it's a fine line, isn't it, between, because I don't know what you're noticing, Janine, with the community as large. And by the community, I just mean I see everyone who listens to our videos and participates and takes the time and effort to put a comment and things like that. We're all part of this community. But
Right.
what are you seeing in terms of the general mood at the moment?
It's at this point. I think that the community, the people that are watching, and I think that they've gotten a lot stronger not to believe what they're actually hearing or questioning what they're hearing. But there are quite a few that I don't. They What I'm actually seeing is, if they've been following one particular person and they say something that pretty much seems to be the word for them, right? But
Yeah,
then there's a lot of other ones who are still like, I'm not really sure about this, or they're sitting on the fence. And I like it when they sit on the fence, because they haven't made up their mind. They haven't gotten enough facts and data to back up their decision, which is really good. But as far as the actual mood goes, um, everybody's tired. We talk about being tired, just doing the behind the scenes, the back office type of work. They're just exhausted, because if they were following the hopium and they're seeing it hasn't come to fruition, now how many holidays will we have to hit before they see that something doesn't happen? It's kind of like, okay, I am passionate about empowerment, teaching people how to take their power back. That's what I've always been passionate about. That comes through in my readings too. And I think it's just some essence that I came in when I incarnated, and it comes out in just about every one of my readings. It's not something that was ever taught to me. It was just always a part of me. So when I actually hear something that maybe even negative, I will always try, is put a positive spin on anything. But if I keep hearing something over and over and over again, and if I have them on my show, that's not aligning with me, that it's not truth at that point.
yeah.
So if it's not truth with me, I prefer to move on to somebody else. And then if they say it's total opposite of what has been on my show, I'll ask them a lot of questions about that. And it just happened yesterday. I had somebody else on the show, and I asked the same question that I asked this other person that was on the show. And everybody says, how could these people be coming up with two different answers? you know and that's what it's been. It's if you're following one particular area and one group, step out of that, go to other ones and see what they're saying. That's how you're going to be able to make a better decision.
That, I think you phrased something really important there, Janine, and it's one of my sort of real learning points as well. Is I do think human nature, a lot of the time, it's very much anyone who's watching any of our channels is not going to be a CNN, a BBC, a mainstream news listener. And so they've very much moved away from them, been doing a lot of their own research and things. But isn't it funny about how we've learned a lot over the last 2 years about not to put some of these celebrities, whether they're sports stars, whether they're actresses and actors, whether they're music stars, whatever that celebrity might be, up on the pedestals. But I've seen so much of that in, I hate the name, Truther Community, but that in all sorts of the things, and people literally saying, well, so and so said that, so it must be true. And you're thinking, well, it might be, it might not be, but you can't take it as gospel just because that particular person said it is, isn't it? It is an
they're giving their power away just by saying that, just by them. You're giving your power away by saying, Peter ABC said this, and so what does that mean, that Peter ABC said that? That's what they said. What are you saying? So it's always good that if you have your own stance in anything in life, and it just might be that, the times are changing, the negotiation is changing, information is going to change. We always hear about this chess moves that are being played and stuff like that. One of the questions that I did ask my guest yesterday was, if you're telling me that they are doing all these spraying things and they're doing this and they're doing that, he wrote a huge book, right? And I was helping him promote his book. And I was like, well, if all this has been going on and there's been books written about it, how come we don't have anybody standing up, taking a stance? And I know we don't need to rely on the government to do this, but why hasn't anything been done yet? I mean, am I asking such a stupid question that seems so obvious to me, that if you guys can put it in writing and sell it, and is it that maybe what you're putting in writing and selling is not true? I don't know. Or is it that, we need to find this out. And if they are doing criminal things to us, as we've been aware of, how come after 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, nothing is breaking down? You know what I'm saying?
I do and I don't. I've got an interesting perspective in that, because I've been studying. I'll have to be careful with my words here, as always. I mean, are we ever going to go back to normal language? We're so used to talking in code now, aren't we? But so I've been
first word sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. We should have our little thing. But so say for example, as a natural health practitioner for all species, I have been studying the effect of glyphosate, pesticides, herbicides for over 20 years. And they are now, the lawsuits 20 years later are coming out to categorically prove that they cause cancer, etc. Yet they're still legal in all our countries. They're still legal, massively so in your country, massively so in the EU, in the UK, and what's deemed acceptable. Now, most people watching this show know how harmful fluoride is, but it's still put in the water and sold to us. So I think the thing is, for me, I've got an interest here, and I'd like to see what you think about it, is these people have been screaming about it, but half of them have actually been got rid of. The other half have had all their businesses taken away. And there's a huge amount of the population, if you're talking about what they're spraying through the air, that people talk about it, but how much do they as an individual stand up and write to their MPs, do it? Because they're always waiting for someone else to do about it. Now, please don't shoot me, guys, and think, I know probably the people watching these videos are probably the ones that do write to their politicians, that do get off their backside and do something. So I'm not talking about to everyone there, but with these things, it's like, how long were we told that smoking was safe for you? How long were we told? Look at how many pharmaceutical drugs have been on the market for years. And then we get the freedom of information data and we find out that they knew all along that they caused all these awful things.
Right. And I guess maybe that I totally agree with you. But at some point in time, they're asking, we the people, please stand up. And it's not just we the people in the United States, it's we the people across every, country here. And that we are standing up. Well, I saw a bunch of protests in just about every country. I've seen them with the convoys in Canada. I've seen them in the United States. And I'm seeing people are standing up. I hear things do come of that. But, I guess maybe because we're talking about it, we might be getting closer to, we the people aren't going to take this anymore, and, I guess maybe even the way that I asked the question, I was giving my power away, thinking that somebody in some government line could actually do this. And we know how crooked they walk, right? And, but if you are following anybody that out there saying, oh yeah, they've been taken down, or they're in Gitmo, they're in Gitmo. I want to know who's in Gitmo. Somebody get a camera on Gitmo. It can't be that difficult.
Exactly.
Are they really there?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think, Janine, I'd be really interested in your perspective. Do you think that part of the reason that everything we're seeing now, despite all the people that are talking about all these different things going on and the awareness being grown, but if you actually look at the size of the truth community, let's just call it that for sake of something, is actually tiny compared to the global population, tiny. So even people that we think might be big in this movement, they still don't get nearly as many views, for example, if you're looking at audience reach, as someone doing a makeup video.
No, I totally agree with that. And I think I actually brought that up on one of my shows one time. So let's just kind of break down like our groups, if you will. And I've always grouped them. You've got the spiritual group, you've got the off-worlders group, you've got, what I call like the Mel K and Charlie Wards, and that group that first started out, right? They were the first ones, if you will. And then, they've got a bunch of other groups. It's the same people watching all of them.
Same, yeah.
I just brought up on one of my shows one time, and her name is Bailey Syrian, I believe, and I brought her up, and I just love her. She's a storyteller, but she's telling the truth about history, and she opens up this great big book. She has 500,000 people that follow her, that are subscribed to her. That's not how many actually watch her, right? I'm thinking, okay, she's network, if she's ready for the network. And here we have, I don't know how many people that I might have mentioned, but are we even close to what this one person has out on YouTube? So our egos that we do this, even the people watching it, are we, you usually hear one person say, I'm the only one in my family that's awake.
Yeah.
And then when they say that, which is probably true, because I believe that true, how many people around them are still sleeping that aren't even aware of this YouTube world, that aren't aware of, what's actually happening in mainstream? So yesterday I asked a question of someone and said, how close, how many, you keep hearing that everybody's waking up. There's a lot of people that are waking up. They might be waking up, but on various levels of consciousness. So they know that, say the first one might be, they know something's wrong, but they can't put their finger on it. Or someone might say, that they still may not even like Mr. T or Mr. B or whatever it is. So these various levels of consciousness, they're awake at some point, but is it at the point that we think that we're even awake? You know what I'm saying?
I so do. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And I almost feel like I'm sort of having an out-of-body experience looking down on it all. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I suppose by the time you get to my age, I can be less of emotionally attached to it, because everyone in my social circle and family's known I've always been weird one. So it's nothing new. I'm just a little bit weirder than even they thought I was now.
But we fit in now. Now we fit in.
We all found
our own little clique, you know.
But the reason I was sort of asking that is I found it quite interesting to look at, we sort of think, and we all talk as a community about how things growing, but you're right, it's the same people that are involved with all these different things. And as a community, I still find it really interesting. I know the censorship's bad, but everyone's finding ways around that. Mm-hmm. I still find it really fascinating that someone that's really trying to talk about, could there be another side to the Ukraine situation? Why can't we? Why are they censoring all the talk about the, what? Why are people still walking around with these in? I still find it really interesting how little interest, and I'm not talking, guys, about views in terms of sort of ego and who's got big channel. I'm saying when you look at how tiny it is, and then you look at how many people, how to put makeup on and mascara on, or do something else. These people are huge. And the other thing I've noticed is a lot of people are really into having someone else tell them the answer. So now, don't get me wrong, it's fun. So, we both are good friends, with Tarot by Janine. So none of this is a personal criticism, and Janine would say this herself, but it's one piece of the big jigsaw puzzle. It's not meant to be the complete answer, but
Right.
it's people jumping on it, which is showing me or suggesting to me that people aren't confident enough to go out and sort of say, this is what I believe and what I'm going to do about it.
If I can add a little more value to that, or what I also think is happening is that they're relating if you will, relating in this is kind of multi-dynamic, if you will. They're relating because it's not the mainstream news. They're relating because it is spiritual. They're putting all these things where they feel comfortable in. And you know what? A big part of it thinks that they just like watching this stuff. I don't know how much of it that they actually believe.
Yeah.
But if they were to have to put a comment in a chat, they're going to base it off of what they've been hearing over and over again. Now, what I find interesting is that these certain groups that I talked about will repeat the same thing on where they go, and they travel among themselves, right? And they stay within their own little clique, if you will. And I call it clique. That's a very old term. A lot of people don't know what that actually means.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I find out that there's a lot of them that wouldn't come onto my show, probably because I wasn't aligned with the agenda, if you will, or the narrative or something like that, and that's okay too. But at the same time, I just think that like you saying, it's a movie. It's a movie. Well, what part of the movie are you in, and what part of the movie am I not in? Am I still sitting in the audience here? It's a big illusion. That's all I could tell everyone. It's very delusional, if you will, and that's that this is the game that we're playing. And I don't think that there's mainstream media or MSM, whatever you want to call it. They're not talking about like the Dr. Erdis. They're not talking about any of that. They don't want to bring that to the forefront. We have to really dissect this, if you will. So you've got things that people won't talk about, and then you have people that will talk about things, and it's up to us. We keep saying, use your own discretion, right? Well, after a while, it's just like, okay, I use my own discretion based off of what I'm hearing. Now I'm really confused if you're telling me that something has changed. You know what I'm saying? It's very confusing to people to take a stance and say, I'm not going to listen to the news on mainstream media. But then when I go to listen to where I think I'm getting good information, it changes very frequently. And when it changes frequently like that, it's creating chaos among the social media people. And everyone is just trying to figure this all out. I don't think that anybody has a total answer to this, if you will. But I do know that there are people who want to control the narratives, and that's what we have to kind of look at it from those eyes, if you will. Is the information, valid, what they're saying? It really doesn't matter at this point in time about the information, because nothing has come to fruition as far as I'm concerned. Nothing has.
Whether it's come from, exactly.
We still don't even know what happened to the flu.
Yeah. I do. I'm going to tell you what happened to the flu. But no, even that, well, has a virus ever been proven to exist? That is a huge, very real conversation. And what I've loved about a lot of this is I love have conversations like this, Janine, where we're talking out loud and sort of evolving. So I've changed my opinion based on new information a lot, but equally I have got very cautious not to jump on the bandwagon. So a couple of a good example is a video that's come out this week where it's basically highlighting a link between a lot of the doctors that were exposing this stuff. And it's really slating them. And it's basically saying, oh, it's part of agenda. And I'm thinking, my God, none of us would be where we were if we didn't have these people that are pointing out the alternative narrative to what the governments want us to think.
Right.
One person points out that there's a link between them all, and suddenly everyone's like, oh my God, they're all on agenda, they're all misleaders. Then just like this. Now they might be. I'm not making a judgment whether they are or not. What I'm saying is, even if you look at you and I and the people we're speaking to, it is a very small community.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not that many of us that are comfortable to have these conversations. So just because all these doctors are linked, well, they need to be linked. We're all linked. You could say that about all of us, because we're all having the same sort of guests on the same sort of, we might have different slants with the conversations because we're all individuals, and things change over time. So what we talked about a year ago might be different to now. But it worries me how quickly people just are going into judgment mode on one thing that one person said, without, as I've got older, I'm a very spontaneous person, and the one thing I really have learned is to absorb and feel the information first before making a really hasty judgment, because whenever I make a hasty judgment, it can come back.
Haste makes waste.
Exactly, it does bite me in the bottom. What do you think? Have you been have you, are you
Actually, what one of my thoughts on all of that is that I actually think that this movie is, you know, we are all in this movie, is that they are waking us up to make us think. So one person over here does something that, well, nothing is shocking anymore, but one person brings something to our attention, and we look at it, and it's like, okay, I would have never thought of that if that hadn't been brought up, or is that even possible? So they're making us, you know, use our brain instead of always us being told. You know, I used to hate the news when I was younger, because I always used to say, they give you snippets of information and then they drop it, and of course that becomes the word, right? But I'd always walk away wondering, you know, just thinking more, putting more thought into it. Well, I think that a lot of people are probably you know, agree with me that they just stopped watching it because they knew that there wasn't enough information, and you know, they have to always research everything else. And then there's the other ones that probably, you know, will say, okay, we'll just take it for granted that that's what it is. You know, and I think that a lot of people are saying, oh, we got to wait for this to happen or this to happen. I just think that everything is still going to be played out as it is, but people might change in these roles, you know,
Yeah.
and you really have to take, you know, really get back from it, not be so into it, if you will. And you could do that by just not even watching a few shows that you watch. Cut them down. If you're doing 20 of them, cut them down to 5 or even 3. That's what I have done just recently. And because I am so busy doing a lot of other things, I have not seen anybody's. And if it's like, if I wake up at midnight, I happen to turn it on, I'm like, oh, Catherine's got a show. I didn't know she was doing one, you know, it's that kind of thing. And then, but other than that, I don't put a lot of my energy and my thought into it, because to me, I was wasting my energy, if you will. But I wasn't wasting my energy when I was digging for the information. So
Yes.
if we go back to the beginning and how we were digging for the information, the first thing that jump started me was the finding out about the children. And I just saw a video out there the other day that just makes me cry, because they're putting more of this stuff out now, and we're getting to that point that that's going to come out. And you know, I said, okay, this is one of the reasons why I'm going to do what I'm doing. And but I started digging. Somebody, I was on Twitter, where, and I can't even remember the name of the handle that they had, told me about the Red Cross and how bad it was. And I'm like, what? And I started thinking, and they brought something else to my attention, something else. And then finally I'm like, I'm just not going to believe this. And so I blocked the person. And guess what? I started doing my own research, and I went back, and that person says, you ain't coming back to me. I tried to warn you. But it made me keep digging for stuff, and we need to continue to dig. And I think that if you take it at a very high level, that's what they're making us do. They're making us think and stand up for ourselves.
I
Here's a
love
good
it.
here's a good point in case is I'm utilizing this in every day. So we want to put some French doors in our house, and you know, I call up this place that's going to do it, and I tell him what I'm looking for. I get a call back, and he says, "Here's the cost of the labor." I said, "I didn't even pick out a door yet. You're just telling me what the labor is?" And so I start challenging him with asking him questions. What's the base price of putting in a door? And, you know, why is this, that, that? And the guy was so flustered. He didn't know what to say to me, and I can hear him asking his boss all these things. Because usually they're so used to saying, "Yeah, okay, sure, I'll do that." But we can't do that anymore. We have to question everything until we feel very comfortable. Why we justify why we're going to pay this price that they're asking us for. Well, I called up my husband, and I'm kind of working with him on this too. And he's like, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Why would they just tell you what the labor is, and you haven't picked out anything?" So he calls me back up and says, "I got him down $200." I said, "Good for you." But if we don't do that, we have to really know that everything is negotiable. They negotiated with us, with our lives, with information that they taught us. Well, let's start doing it back to them. You know, that's our power. We are taking back our power in any way that we can.
Oh, I just love all that. And I love the fact that, okay, we may, globally still be a reasonably small community, But I think everyone, I can see all the listeners and everything have been going on this exact same journey with us. What I
Yeah.
like, what I've seen recently, which I really, really like, is I do like the fact that in general, a lot of people are quite kind in their comments, because they're realizing that they want to put something positive out there or not at all. And I think that's been a massive win, because I have noticed that's improved over the time. I'm not even talking about personally. I mean, I feel really lucky that I've got really, really nice listeners. Got a few
So
now.
do I. I do too.
But in general, I've been really, really lucky with the people. But I've noticed on other people's channels as well that it's been improving. And I also think that people are realizing through their own journey, and how they, like your friend that you've just said about the Twitter person who rocked them. I think people are realizing, getting that more compassion back for the fact that everyone's at a different stage of their understanding, and everyone's got different things going on their lives, so they can cope with taking on different information at different times. Because let's face it, once you know it, you really do have to do something about it, don't you? And
You
so
do, because if we know that how we've all been blindsided, and it's not just us in this generation before and before, it goes back hundreds of years, right? And so that now that we have this uh, global consciousness of this, if you whatever you want to call it, we've got this vast amount of information. Why would we want to behave the way that they behaved with us? So this kindness is the number one thing that I think has come to the forefront. And I think a lot of people still may have that knee-jerk reaction where they may not be kind, but they will backpedal and try to justify it. Even if they're backpedaling, you're changing the energy of it right away. You're doing that. Or if you say something that comes out, a lot of times I would tell people it's not what you say, it's how you say it that has so much power behind it. And even if you just say in your own mind, cancel that out, it'll get canceled out, because you don't want that type of information going out to the universe. We make mistakes, we're still human, but we're getting better. I honestly truly believe that we are getting better. And if we can just do one thing each day to self-empower ourselves, we're getting there. We're going to get there. And so that means we self-empower ourselves by trusting our intuition and trusting the knowing that we have. And then you go out and you practice it in your everyday living. Maybe it doesn't have to be such a big thing. We just take these baby steps to make that happen, like with the spine of a door, right? Purchasing a door, something like that. That's going to build us up to the momentum that, okay, we're ready for the government. Bring it on.
I think that's so true. It's like everything. Anyone who's on their spiritual journey knows it all starts with ourselves. And that starts with all aspects of our life, that when we get our own house in order, and I'm talking about spiritual house or physical house or emotional house or real house, then everything else starts to fall into place, doesn't it? Because if you're incongruent with what you're doing, feeling, acting, then that is going to come out into the universe. And I know you and I are both really, really big on community, and you've done quite a lot recently, haven't you, to set up your own little community?
Yeah, I'm really trying. I've got more people that are coming to it. So, from what I heard in one of my communities, that there are a lot of these, and I was glad to hear that. I didn't think I was like being a pioneer in anything, but I just wanted to get it started from doing readings. There's a lot of people out there that just want to talk to someone, bounce some ideas off. Like we said, we're the black sheep of the family. So if you can join one of these type of communities as I put together, and you're going to be the first one to speak next week in it. Yay! And so it's just to talk about, the people that are actually joining it have been nurses. So a lot of them have been retired, or they're starting out, wanting to learn about energy, different modalities. We even thought about doing some drumming, singing bowls, the vibration. I love the chakra singing bowls. I do those while I'm doing my readings, and I can feel myself shifting, because what I do is it is very it's very tiring if I do too many of them. But I'll tell you, the only way that you can get back into balance is just, getting in the vibrations and changing the frequencies. And it is powerful. It really is. But the community, I'm trying to bring in one person or maybe three people that is in our larger community that have these shows, to bring them in and talk to them. And then I don't even really want to be the speaker in there until people start feeling more comfortable, where they start taking over. And I've seen some pretty powerful healers in these, and I was pretty impressed with them. So that's what we're doing. And it's just a place for you to go. And if you're in another country, please find one or start your own community. And it's with social media, it's pretty easy to start it. And even if there's only 3 people, and that's 3 people that you've connected your heart to.
Oh, it's lovely. I love that. Personally, we're coming into springtime over here, where we're into spring and the weather's been lovely for us, okay. So I've just been really enjoying, planting my garden up, planting my herbs. I've got some that can't go outside yet because of the frost, and just making some of my remedies and ointments and things like that. Again, it's just been lovely. And then joining together with some of the neighbors and deciding who's going to plant what and share it about and everything. And I think there's been so many positives that have come out of this journey, because we had lost, I think, in terms of the way a lot of us were living, that sort of look after your neighbor, look after the other people, and also perhaps the art of really listening to other people.
Yeah, a lot of people have lost their jobs that I have talked to that are doing the gardening. They're calling it a community gardening, where they'll, throw a bunch of seeds down in there. And if they know that somebody is struggling, I've even asked them to start looking at the local pantries, food pantries. I didn't know if they just took cans or if they take fruits and vegetables too, but if there's always plenty, especially tomatoes, they grow like crazy, right? And I've always shared tomatoes, and I always tell my neighbors, don't go shopping for tomatoes all summer, because you're going to get them from me. But yeah, that's that type of thing is what we want to talk about, is sharing information, products, knowledge, just being a networker if you can. It's an archetype that you are, that you share information. And I always talk about, a lot of people know a lot of different things, but they don't get the opportunity to share it among everyone else. And this is what the community is all about. You have a voice, and everybody's voice needs to be heard. And if there's a will, there's a way that you can help one person, that, just knocking on your neighbor's door to see if they're okay, smiling at somebody. It's those little things that we don't have to, think about these great big, Nasera, these great big things that we're hoping are going to change our life once, that all happens. No, we change our life by doing what we need to do. I still struggle with a lot of different things that I've heard that haven't come to fruition, but that's my own personal issue, because I like to make things happen. If you're going to say something, let's make it happen.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, Janine. I'm very with you on that. But it's quite nice in a way, because I'm very much at the stage personally where I'm like, well, fine, if these things, someone's just messaged me just before I came on to you and said, have you heard the latest about the revaluation? And I was like, no, I haven't. And I'm not waiting for anything. I've never been that type of person. I've never been the type of person that will wait. I've always been very happy to get up and do it. And but if it comes, absolutely brilliant. So there's nothing energetically that I'm putting out there that would stop these great things happening. But I'm certainly not waiting for them, because, if I've got something wrong with me, I'm not going to wait for a med bed. I'm going to empower myself through all the other tools and techniques that are currently available to us now.
One other thing that I'll just kind of add to that, and is, I know that you're kind of short on time here, but I owned a business back in Illinois. I'm originally from Illinois, in the States area, and we owned a business. It was called New Click. And what we sold was trendy novelties, if you will. I had no idea. We had no idea what we were getting into. But I'll tell you, people are always wanting to be on the trendy end of things if they hear something new. And, there was I hate to say this, but this was like a new concept. So this business was probably about 10 years ago that we had this. The only thing that we did find out we were successful at is we had this machine that you could take a picture from your iPhone and we could print it right on a t-shirt. Right. And it was really cool because, everybody loves their t-shirts. And if you see my father used to love to see a picture of his grandchildren, on a t-shirt. Why? I don't know. But, that's just things that people love. That was trending at that time. But, what is trending? It's something that we really got to take a look at. Do we always have to be the first one to know about something? And what's happening right now, I think, is that we've heard a lot of information, and it might have sounded trending, we don't have any details or facts to back up all of it. So, like you said, we go about our business. We take care of our family. We take care of what we need to do. And if it happens to pop up, then okay, that's great. It's perfect. There's a perfect time and everything for everyone to assimilate some information. We are energy. It's all about energy and it's all about information, and it will come to each and every one of us. 7 billion people in this world. We'll all get a piece of the pie somehow.
I so agree. And we're all on our individual good journeys. And I think what has been nice to see is, I mean, I was speaking to an amazing lady this morning in Australia and actually speaking to her horse more than her, but she was absolutely wonderful. And what I think is brilliant is when you see how many people are really stepping into their power and doing things their way,
Yeah.
and how many people have been prepared to be got rid of from their jobs because they're not prepared to compromise their core values. And at least these discussions are so much more out in the open now, and it's these sort of unsung heroes that I just gives me such great hope, because it's not just things we're talking about now, it's the general way as humans we had been living our lives. And I think this stop for people has been actually really, really useful, because most people of whatever side of the fence you are starting to look at their lifestyles and whether it's serving them or not.
Right. It's interesting because when I start doing a lot of channeling, a lot of people. I mean, I go back to this trending thing, but what I'm actually hearing right now, and it's a great time for this, is that we all came here with a passion, and we're all individuals, if you will, but we all have our own creativity. And I think what I'm hearing from spirit right now is, so let's just say, for example, you've done Reiki before. Everyone has done Reiki. There's maybe different variations of Reiki depending on what part of the country, or you can add other modalities to this and create your own protocols. And that it could be anything. It could be, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be in the spiritual realm of thing. It just could just be uh, when you're in the corporate world, they say you do this way, this way. It's very methodical. And I think that that paradigm is falling apart right now. Is we have to know that we're all individuals, but yet we all have great ideas and we can all create something and share it. And there's a lot of people that always, you talk about trending stuff, they're going to want to know what you've created. We come, if you talk about the creator, we are the creator. So I think giving back our power and being the creator and all of this is at the level of consciousness that we need to be aware of. And now's the time to manifest those dreams, those hopes that you have. Because I don't think there's a better time to do that than right now. And each and every one of you were placed here for a particular reason. And we just need to share that joy with everyone.
I just love that, and I think it's so important. And I think all these discussions, the fact that these discussions are taking place sort of all over the world from all different people and everything, is such a positive thing. I think I really do feel that the tolerance levels for others as individuals, and therefore the respect, is improving a lot. And certainly I'm sort of seeing that, and I think that will
Yeah.
extend to all creatures great and small, because you know I'm not talking about the great climate hoax, but I'm talking about when we treat ourselves with more respect, when we listen to other people and accept different points of view and don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can love and respect someone without having to agree with everything that they do and say.
Yeah, and being in the matrix, it's so quick to say, negative things. I happened to walk in a metaphysical store where there was a reader in there, and all I heard was negativity things. And I thought, well, that's not me. Don't judge her. You read differently, and this she might be making. She attracts like. We're all mirror images of each other, and that's what that person probably needed to hear. But like you said, we're all at different levels, and we're all here. But just be kind to each person. A smile goes a long way. It's funny because they covered up our smile for so long and they kept us apart. There's no more division anymore. You have to wipe that from your mind and just know that just smiling again. Even the children are going to be looking up to adults as models now. Okay, they were kind of screwed up there for a couple of years, now it's up to us to say, okay, this is what has to be done. And I think the mama bears and papa bears, and there's been so many movements and across so many different countries that I think the kids are getting it now. I feel that. I do feel
Yeah.
that because I have such compassion for children, and animals, of course. You know, we need to look at those animals, because I truly believe that they're mirror images of us too. You know, our pets.
So much so. I had a really lovely chat with Sherry Didmand yesterday about that, and I've been having a few good chats about that, because as you know, that's what I like to talk about more than anything in the world. But I think, again, this is one of the things I'm really pleased about is, and don't please, you know, can be easy to take the wrong way, the awareness we've got about what's been happening with the little people is now transferring to the awareness of what we've been doing to other species as well.
Yeah.
And you know, this, it's like when we know better, we do better. We can't, if you're not aware of something, you're not going to make a different decision. But it's this wonderful thing now that so many people really are questioning everything. They don't need to know the answers. None of us need to know the answers, and the answers
Right.
are constantly changing. And I don't ever believe there is any one truth anyway. I just don't believe that the world works like that. But what I'm seeing is it's such a healthy way to look at life. It's not paranoid, it's just a healthy questioning about, just because we've always done it like this, does it make sense? Is this the way I want to continue to live my life? And so many people are having such personal transformations by just asking these simple questions, which I just think as societies, we weren't doing mass scale 2 years ago.
Yeah, it is. It's real important. Like the biggest question you could ever ask, what is the purpose of my life? And the first thing you're going to hear is, oh, are you sure you're ready for this?
Yeah.
Here you go. You're on your journey, right? And those are the type of questions we should be asking. Asking of ourselves before we reach out and ask anybody else. But a lot of times too, that, you know, some of the programming that we have, and it's you know, it has to be undone or unstuck, if you will. And that's what I find in the Akashic records, is you know, trying to see where these patterns are, and trying to give them a different outlook. And if they come in with very heavy energy and go out with a very light energy, I know that I was guided correctly. I
That's
really do.
wonderful. So talking about, I could literally talk to you all day, Janine. I love talking to you. So interesting hearing your point of view and your, you know, your lovely positive outlook on life. But so talking about your work and your records, if people want a reading with you, I know you're really, really booked up. So if people go to your website and book a reading, what sort of wait time can they expect at the moment?
You know, because I'm also doing interviews throughout the day too. So I think that we're looking into June right now. It's not too bad, but yeah, I think it's right around June. And I'm moving things around too, so I do need to make that comment. I don't want anyone to get frustrated. It's just that this program that I have that's automated doesn't always work the way that I want it to. And if I bring in an intern to help me out with that kind of stuff, it'll work out the kinks. So I'm apologizing ahead of time, because I know that people really want the readings, and then if I change it on them, it's an inconvenience, and that has already happened in the last couple of days. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing, is a lot of interviewing, a lot of vetting of the information, still doing my research, and that alone takes up a lot of time. But I like my husband says, I live down in the basement.
Yes, I know. I'm in my lovely little office down my garden, which is gorgeous. I think that's brilliant. You know, so much what we said I do, because I've got an online booking system for my consults, and I have to do the same. I have to apologize because I've set it up with times what's the best I can, but I do have to get back and change some, because sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 people book at the same time, and then they all get a yes, and then so
and I'm like, why doesn't this calendar know that there's 2 people here?
I know it's just I'm in exactly the same dilemma, but luckily
and I hate to disappoint people. I really do. I get just as upset, and I know that it's not a good thing to put out there, but you know, that this is why we have these vibrational sounds to, to calm us down, right? And I love the singing bowls. I really do. You know, that's one thing that if anybody wants to start out with, you know, doing, find someone that's doing it. You go to the place. Don't listen to it on YouTube. Go to these singing bowls, because I'll tell you that just being in that environment is just so loving.
Oh, it's
It's
wonderful. And I love taking my some of my dogs with me as well, because one of my friends had a gorgeous sound healing session last summer, and it was just gorgeous. We were lying out there with our dogs and everything. It was heaven. And lifting vibration essential oils are brilliant for that as well. So I've got my sage essential oil here that I'm sniffing, and just, I do a lot of work with essential. So everyone's got, there's so many different ways that people can do it. You know, walking barefoot in the ground is one of the best. So
yeah.
Janine, I'm going to have to try and get another slot in your very, very busy question, because there's so much else I want to talk to you about. So
Okay.
thank you so much for your time today. Is there
Thank
anything
you.
else that you want anyone to know about before we leave it?
No, not really. Just you know, just remember that everyone is a mirror and an image of you, and you know, just be kind as much as you can. And I think a lot of people are, because I have been running across some fabulous people
Mm.
that I know that we talk about. Everyone talks about ascension and going up and stuff like that. I think we're doing it. We're
Yeah.
not even aware of it.
I agree. Well, thank you so much. As I said, I literally could talk to you for hours, but I know we haven't got hours.
Right. Well, no, thank you. Thank you for the invite. I do appreciate your patience and having me, you know, there was a little bit of chaos behind all this, but thank you so much. And it's always, I love talking to you. And
I
when
love
when
talking
my
to you.
pets get sick, guess who I call? Catherine.
Oh,
I,
anytime. And you know, we've got such a lot of friends in common and things, and it's just wonderful. And I'd like to personally thank anyone who takes the time to listen to these conversations, because you
yeah.
are very much appreciated, and we do read the comments and we do love the feedback, and because all of us are sort of raising each other's vibration and sort of holding hands across the pond, and as Bryce likes to say, we're all walking each other home.
Yeah.
So
That is
we'll
beautiful.
we will be back, everyone. Yeah, and I will put all Janine's links below. The only thing, can you just send me your backup channel on YouTube, so I put the link to that as well? And then,
Yes.
as usual, all the links to get hold of Janine, if you just send me those through, I'll make sure all the correct latest ones go below the video, so they know how to get hold of you. And I can honestly, I'm going to be booking in a session with you as well, because I'm really looking forward to that. So, and I don't
And
mind waiting. I don't mind how long I have to wait. So don't worry about that. Thank you, Janine. Thank you, everyone else, and speak soon.
yeah, thank you so much. Bless-